Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bonsai Forever. I'm Jay Borstel. Today I have a tree that I've worked on before. It's a willow leaf oak, and I did a video on this one where I wired some of the branches before it had any leaves on it, and I did I removed a couple of branches and I trimmed a couple of them back. So now that it has leaves on it, I'm going to go ahead and go through it, and I'm going to take the wire off of it because it's not dug in yet, but I don't want it to dig in on this tree. Some trees it's better if you wait until it does kind of start to dig in, because then you know the branches are set. On this one, I don't want to do that, partially because I don't know how it's going to react to the wire digging into it, and partially just because I don't want to have to wait for the wire scars to go away. So I'm going to go ahead and take the wire off of it now, and then I'm going to go through and look it over and see if I need to do any trimming. So, all right, there we go. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. I've got wire on these two branches here. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. I'm going to see if I can just unwrap it without messing anything up, but if I need to, I'll get out the angle cutters and I'll just cut it off. Myself a little bit closer here. So this wire is actually a very sturdy wire. It's copper wire. So when you put copper wire on the tree, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but for those that are new to the channel or new to bonsai, if you use copper wire, you want to use annealed wire, which means that it's been heated and then let to be air cooled, so that the wire becomes more pliable. It bends a little bit easier, and then once you've used the wire, once you've bent it around the branches that's using the wire, then it becomes work hardened. So basically what that means is the wire gets hard. You know, it's not flexible anymore. So after you've put the wire on the branch, being that it's work hardened, that's actually really good because it holds better. But then when you're going to take it off, that means it holds better. So it's a little bit more difficult to take off if you're trying to unwrap the wire. If you just cut the wire, then that's one thing. It's not super hard to do that. But I think I'm going to just unwrap this wire off of this because it seems to be doing just fine. You want to make sure and hold the branches where the wire is coming off of, so that you don't damage the bark of the branch or you don't break the branch, because being as though the wire is now work hardened, it could potentially hold on to the branch and like scrape the branch, and that's not good to do that. You don't want to take the bark off the branch with your wire. You also want to be careful of the end of the wire so that you don't scratch another part of the tree with your wire. Alright, so I have one more piece of wire up here that I'm going to take off. Sometimes I'll leave a little bit of extra wire on it. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can bring you in a little bit closer here. Maybe. Here we go. So I'll leave a little bit of extra wire so that later on when I want to take the wire off, and I'll just be able to grab that instead of using the pliers. Let me put you all back here. There we go. So I'll just leave that little piece of wire so that I can just grab it and be able to take the wire off easier. And you always want to be careful of other branches around what you're working on also, And I always leave one wrap left on the branch when I go to do the other branch so that I don't accidentally twist this branch off or twist this branch off because the wire is loose. So being that this is a longer branch, this wire is going to be a little bit more difficult to take off. So I'm trying to unwrap it to where it's bending the wire from this direction out away from the tree rather than trying to just twist it off, because then it leaves just the wires all twisted on the branch still, so it's easier to damage the branch that way. So I'm trying to twist it to where it opens each wrap, to where it just opens it up, and that makes it come off the branch. And I'm always having positive control of the base of the wire and the end of the wire. But this did actually dig in a little bit on this branch, so I guess that gives me a chance to find out how the willow leaf oak reacts to wire that's dug in. So now I get to watch and see how long this takes to recover. I'm going to take the camera off for just a second. Alright, so I get to see now how long it's going to take for these pieces to recover here. So it's got some wire wraps that you can see on there, on this branch too, on this side here. If I can get in there close enough to see it. I can't quite see without my hand behind it. There we go, right there. So this branch here, a couple of, you can kind of see the wire wraps on it. If I can get it close enough, and there we go. So you can see right here where the branch or the wire was at on those branches. The rest of the tree looks really good so far. It's been a really hot summer so far, so I've got some burnt leaves. The tips of the leaves are a little burnt. This one's got some damage to it. It's not too bad though, but it's looking good. I do have leaves on most of the branches, but I'm gonna go ahead and take off some of the dead branches that I've got, so I can just get rid of that, get it out of the way, so I don't have to deal with that later. And also because if I just take off all the dead branches that I can find now, then the live stuff has more room to grow also. There's not a whole lot, a lot of the ends of the branches didn't make it for some reason, which is okay. This tree's still doing good, it's still healthy. Just had a couple of branches die back, which is going to be something that's going to happen to your trees anyway. It's just something that naturally happens to trees. They have dieback. They grow new branches. They have some dieback, and that's kind of how you get new ramification. It's also how you kind of get new directions of the branches. Sometimes it really sucks that you lost a branch, because this one here, like this one here, it would have been really nice to have had these two branches and this branch be part of this tree still, but the ends out here grew. A little spider tried making its nest in the leaves here. So it'd have been nice to have had these branches, but even though it would have been nice, it's okay that they died back. It's okay. This tree is looking pretty good still. And as this tree grows and I get more ramification, these leaves should reduce in size some more. I'm not too worried about that just now. That's something I'm definitely working towards, getting smaller leaves and more ramification. But part of bonsai is the process of it, enjoying your tree while you're working on it, while it's becoming more ramified. You still enjoy it, you still appreciate it, and you just watch it grow, because that's really what bonsai is all about, is enjoying the tree, right? The art of it is to make it nice, to make it look like a full-size tree, to make it show quality or whatever you want to do with it. But just enjoying the tree is a big part of it. If you don't enjoy your tree, then why have it at all? And I did leave the tag on here so that I can remember the name of it. It doesn't have any issues right now. Later on, this could cause issues, so I'll make sure and just keep an eye on it. It's probably not going to cause an issue for quite a while. The tree still has a lot of growing to do. I'm going to bring you back in here, show you the roots of this tree, which are all covered up by the weeds here. I'm going to take out some of the weeds, like I always do. Take out the clovers, take out all the dead or weeds that have died off a little bit. There's grass. I kind of like the grass on here because it gives it a little bit of extra, but it's too tall, so I'm going to cut that back. I'm going to use my scissors to do this. I'm just going to, like I'm mowing the yard, just cut it down. Just like that. Get it back so that we can see the rest of everything that's in here. So you don't want to have anything being more overbearing than the tree. You don't want anything to take away from the tree. You want it all to add to the composition of it, to make it look like it's in nature. So having the grass is kind of cool. Makes it look like it's in nature. The clovers are just too big. This stuff kind of looks like shrubs, I think. So I'm going to leave a lot of this. These guys get really big, so that's got to go. And it's best to take out the weeds that are going to get really big when they're small, because their roots are a lot smaller, so it's not as difficult. And I'm going to go ahead. Excuse me. Go ahead and sneeze really quick. Thank you. But I'm going to go ahead and cut these back to where they look more like a shrub rather than a giant weed in here. I'm not 100% sure where I acquired this type of weed from, whether it came from the yard or whether it came from something like moss or something that I brought home. If it came from something I brought home, it was a blessing and a mistake at the same time, because it's kind of a cool or an interesting weed, but it is relentless. This stuff doesn't stop growing. You can cut it back or take it out, and it seeds so easily that it's really hard to just completely get rid of. If you've watched more than a couple of my videos, you've seen my ficus forest that I did, and the gunpowder weed in there, just I take it out every time I work on that forest. So maybe if I start taking it out sooner, it might help, but it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So I'm going to take off this stuff that's right next to the roots of this tree. I'm using the tweezers to get closer to the base of the roots so I can try and get the roots of the weeds out. Because just taking the top of the weed off, it doesn't really get rid of the weed. It'll just grow back. So I gotta dig down into the moss for that one, because that one just really got down in there. So some of this I'm just cutting it back because I kind of think that it does kind of look like shrubs around the tree. I think it gives it a little bit of being in the forest kind of feel. And I do kind of like how they grow outwards, kind of like a bush. So I don't want to cut it like in a round shape like a topiary. I want to leave it in somewhat of a natural shape so that it looks more like a bush. Like I said, the ones like right up next to the trunk, I'm going to try and get those out so that they don't hinder the growth of the tree. So I've noticed some trees that I've had weeds in that I didn't take care of the weeds as soon as I should have. They just don't grow as well because the weeds are taking up all the moisture out of the soil, or the weeds are taking up all the space in the soil, so the roots don't have space, or the tree's roots don't have space to grow in the pot. So that's one reason that you got to really either not have weeds in your soil or keep up on them. These ones, they have really short roots, as you can see. Those are small plants, but let me grab a larger one of these out of here so I could show you if I can get the whole root with it. But as you can see, they've got really short roots. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. So you can't really hardly see the roots. So that's kind of why I leave these ones in here, because they have really short roots. So it's not really taking away from the space of the tree. There's some good roots you can see. So yeah, so they don't really take away a whole lot from the tree. Some of the stuff that really does though is like the clovers. They'll get really long roots, or that first weed that I pulled out, those will get really large roots. Grasses will too, but this small variety of grass, which I'm not sure what the variety is, but if I could find out, I would really like to cultivate some of this type of grass, because I think it looks really good in some of the larger trees. The smaller trees, not so much. Like anything that's larger in a small tree just doesn't make it look good. So, but the smaller grass in a larger tree actually kind of looks nice, I think. So if I could find out what kind of grass it is, maybe I'll have to do some more research on that and find out for sure, but I actually kind of like it. I'm saying a lot today, I don't know why. I'm going to trim the rest of this back here. I think I'm going to take some more out around the roots so I can see the roots of the tree. I haven't had any issues with this tree pushing new growth out of the roots, which I kind of like that. I've got so many trees that they'll grow new trees out of the roots, and it's really hard to keep up with sometimes. So I'm just thankful that this one doesn't do that. So I am going to get a little bit more soil and fill in this corner. Somehow I probably pulled something out of this corner and it got rid of a chunk of soil there. So I'm going to add some soil back in there. Just going to use my little scoop. I'm going to try to make it to where the grass is growing around it, so I don't cover it up and get rid of it. I'll work it down into the grass. See another weed down in here I want to get rid of. Having tweezers to take out the weeds has actually been really helpful. I didn't realize how helpful it would be. I've seen a lot of other people on YouTube growing bonsai trees that have the tweezers, and I never thought it would be as helpful as it is. So when I got tweezers, now I'm using them all the time. I think it's awesome. That's, if you're wondering what kind of tools you need to be getting for your trees, tweezers would be a good thing to put on your list of things to get. A little scoop, like a little shovel-like scoop, would be another thing that I would put on that list. I've used this scoop a lot for small things like this. Now, if you're looking for other things to get, a couple of buckets is a good idea for like putting soil and stuff in. All right, so I'm gonna go to the top part of the tree now. See if we can maybe zoom in a little bit up here. Let's see what I can see. This tree's kind of tall and my tripod's short. So I'm gonna go ahead and stand up for this part. This tree's kind of tall. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna take off all the leaves that have brown on them, just to get them out of the way. And as I'm doing this, I'm looking at the end of the branches to see, I want to make sure you guys can see my face. Alright, so as I'm going through, I'm looking at the end of the branch too, because I want to see if it's got new growth on the end of the branch, if they're still putting out new leaves, if the branches are gaining size, to know if I want to fertilize the tree. If it's not putting out more growth, that's kind of a good indication that the tree is either good where it's at and it thinks that it's fine with the amount of leaves it has for the size of the tree, or it could mean that it's not getting enough nutrients to have extra to be able to put out more. So I'm looking to also find leaves that are damaged, that are twisty, or like they're not looking normal, like how that leaf is kind of got it's kind of got holes in it and stuff. It doesn't look like it's been eaten by anything, it's just got a hole in it, so it's a leaf that's damaged. So I'm working on taking off the damaged leaves, and then the larger leaves, like these guys, they're kind of a larger leaf. I mean, it's as big as my finger. So I'm going to take off maybe one or two of these larger leaves on this branch, like the really large leaves. I want to kind of leave the end leaves on here for now. I want to take the leaves that are farther back, I think, on this, because I kind of want the canopy to get a little wider. The leaves or the canopy, I want it wider. So I kind of want the canopy to be out here like this, because the height of the tree, the width of the tree should be half again as high as the tree, I think. So I want to increase the length of some of these branches. Plus I want them to grow out a little bit to strengthen up, to get thicker branches. So that comes with letting the branches grow longer. So I'm going to try and let some of these branches grow longer, and I'm going to cut off the really large leaves and the damaged leaves so that it can put out some more leaves and smaller ones. I don't know if you've watched my video on my maple tree. If you haven't, I did that same thing with that tree, and it's looking phenomenal. It is looking like it has actually put out some more growth. I do want to be careful not to take off too much on the lower branches, because I want the lower branches to grow faster and stronger than the upper branches, because I want them to be evenly thick on the lower side, and smaller and smaller and smaller towards the top. So I want more twigging at the top, like smaller branches, and I want thicker branches at the bottom. So I'm going to let the bottom branches grow more than the top branches. I am taking off the dead twigs still. Right here at the top of the tree.
Yeah, you can't see that at all.
Let me change my position here. There we go. Right here. This is a brand new branch right there. So that's going to cause more ramification at the top of the tree to help out the apex of the tree. So that's really awesome. Excited about that. It's nice to see good new growth on your trees. I'll take off this larger piece of branch right here. Anything that I'm taking off right now, I'm going to cut it off straight and so that it doesn't interfere with the growing of the tree. I don't know if you guys can see this over here.
No, you can't see him.
Check this guy out. Let me see if I can zoom in enough that you can see him. There he is. It's my little anole friend. He's one of the larger anoles. That guy's cool. I love having the lizards inside the greenhouse. It definitely helps with the bugs because they love eating bugs in the greenhouse. It's just great. I've actually seen them like drop down from up on the top there and drop down onto a tree and grab a bug off of it. It's really cool. All right. So I am getting pretty close to done here. I don't want to take up too much y'all's time. I just wanted to kind of give you what I'm doing with this tree and how it's coming along, and a couple of tips on helping you with yours if you have a willow leaf oak or really any deciduous tree. This works with trimming back some of the upper leaves to cause it to grow more. Taking off the leaves will cause it to backbud at the top and get more ramification. Taking off some of the leaves will cause it to get more airflow. This tree I don't think has an issue with airflow. It's pretty open, but it also helps the rest of the tree with not being shaded out. Taking off some of the larger leaves, and also taking off the larger leaves causes it to grow smaller leaves because it wants the solar panels to grow the tree. So if you take off some of the larger solar panels, it needs to make more. So it'll make a larger quantity of smaller ones. Most of the time. I've seen it do it the other way. That comes with fertilizing. If I take off all these leaves right now and then I fertilize this really heavily, then I'm going to get a bunch of really big leaves. So I want to take these leaves off. I want to wait for it to grow new leaves. And then I want to wait for those leaves to harden off before I fertilize them. Now, if I cut all these leaves off and it doesn't put out a new flush of growth reasonably quickly, then I'm going to fertilize it anyway because I want it to have enough strength to put out new leaves next year. So like right now is when it's gaining energy for next year. That's how the trees grow. They gain energy during the growing season, and then they hibernate over winter because it's a deciduous tree. So it's going to lose its leaves, it's going to hibernate, it's going to rest. And then in the spring, it's going to put out new leaves. And if it has energy to put out new leaves, then it's going to put out new leaves. If it doesn't have enough energy to put out new leaves, it won't. So that's why I fertilize to produce more energy for next year. So that'll be more for the fall fertilization. But I am going to not fertilize this one now. I fertilized it not too long ago. But I think that's going to be it for this tree. I was kind of hoping to take off some more of the larger leaves, but it doesn't look like some of the branches have enough. If I take off more, then it just won't. It won't survive taking off more leaves, I don't think. to take this one off. It's kind of in the way. Some other leaves. And when I cut the leaf off, I'm not cutting it right at the trunk. I'm leaving the petiole, which is the end of the leaf, attached to the branch, so that it doesn't cause disease in there. And those will just fall off later on, just naturally. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for this tree, for the work that I'm doing on this tree. I'll take the camera off really quick and shake you around. But I wanted to show you guys the roots on this tree too. They look pretty cool. I like them. It's kind of an interesting root situation. In my last video I said that I was going to bury it deeper to get more roots off of here. I never did, but the next time I repot this, I'm going to look down here and see what they look like, to see if I want to do something then, and I'll have it out of the pot then, so I can do work on it easier then, because it's supposed to be repotted when I'm going to repot it. So I'll probably do that in the spring before it starts growing new leaves on it. Chickens are going nuts. I don't know if y'all can hear them. You probably can. One of the chickens is probably laying an egg. I think I'm going to take this leaf off too, but that's going to be it for this video. I really appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for all your support. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and share the video with your friends. And see you on the next one. Hey everybody, it's me again. So as I was closing out my video, I was thinking that there's something else I can do with this tree to reduce the leaf mass without taking the leaves completely off. You can cut the leaves in half. So like this right here, if I could show you. So this leaf right here, which I'm making a shadow, I cut it in half. So I'll show you on this one here. So you can take your leaf and just cut it in half. If you want it to look more natural, you can cut it at an angle so it looks more natural. I'm trying to do this one-handed, so bear with me. So you can cut it like that, and then it still looks natural, but you've cut the leaf down to where it's removed some of the solar panels, so it's going to try and produce more leaves even if you do this. But then you didn't take the whole leaf off, so it kind of saves removing all the leaves from a branch, which you really don't want to do that. I've heard of people doing defoliations on their trees, and the deciduous trees, and some of them it works and some of it doesn't. This one's damaged really bad, so I'm going to take most of that off. But yeah, so you can just go through and cut the leaves, and that also produces the tree wanting to backbud so that it can have more solar panels again. And this will work actually better than just taking all the leaves off. Some of them should come off, like the damaged ones, you would take those off and then just cut back the other larger leaves. And that also creates more space. It lets it be able to breathe more, and it doesn't block the sun, so that the leaves that you're cutting back will stop shading the lower parts of the tree. So there you have it. And so that'll be the end of the video, and see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.